Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to teach you how to properly reward the small victories in your life for better productivity in habits. This question comes from a subscriber by the name of The F Dream, and he asked, how do you reward the smaller victories? So for those of you who aren't as familiar with this concept, it comes from productivity and habit forming tips and gurus and books. But the basic idea is that um, our habits are made through a three-part system of a cue, which kind of triggers the habit, the behavior, and then a reward. And through that three-circuit system, we start to ingrain good and bad habits. So then what people in productivity and those who are focused on forming better habits do is they take that process and they use it for themselves to wire good habits. And the small victories parts comes in when you reward yourself even if the victory is kind of small. Now, I don't know how DF Dream found out about small victories, but that's one way. There's small things you can do, like flossing one single tooth per day and rewarding yourself a bit, and then turning that into flossing 3 teeth a day, to flossing the whole top of your mouth, to flossing all your teeth. And that's a concept that's very powerful that a lot of people, even my dentists, haven't heard of, that can really start to build habits that you've been putting off. However, I think another area where small victories comes in, and this may be where he heard it, is through my own YouTube videos where I just talk about that on a more personal lifestyle level. Because when you're in school, I have many students who watch my videos. You're struggling to get good grades and you're trying to learn more how to get good grades. And oftentimes I see students beat themselves up even though they're progressing and their grades are getting better and better, because they have this expectation of making these big jumps from straight F's to straight A's, which is just unrealistic. So I tell them to celebrate the small victories, maybe moving from a D to a C, or a C to a B in a test, or a quarterly grade. So how do you do this properly? How do you actually celebrate those small victories? Such an interesting question, because I think most people just kind of choose their own, but this guy's clearly thinking more deeply, because he wants to choose the right things to reward him with. And I think there's no real strong right or wrong. If anything, one would just be that obviously you don't want to choose addictive or bad habits as rewards. So obviously don't do drugs or something that's super addictive, like excessive video game playing, as a reward if you move from a D to a C or a C to a B. Some of these rewards can be extremely relishing if you make the time to really change your mindset and relish them. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, here's an example. Right before I was filming this, I saw a bunch of flowers, and they were white, some were pink, some were red. Right behind me, you could see some white flowers. And most of the time, I would be like, I wouldn't even register or notice it. But today I decided, hey, I'm going to really pay attention to these flowers. Some of them just naturally caught my eye, but they were like all these different colors, and it was free to view. It was a little reward for myself to kind of refresh my mind, take my mind off life, and just feel reinvigorated. And so just to appreciate the trees, the grass around me, the flowers. So simple, but that's those small things that you take for granted. A lot of people do not have. They don't have access to it because maybe they live in a city or somewhere else in the world, or whatever. So a lot of these things that are oftentimes in front of you, you can turn into rewards. And then, of course, there are other things that you can do to really kind of celebrate that. For example, it could be something small. It's buying yourself a small smoothie, Or, if you're really on a budget and you can't just be going out spending money on that, there's definitely ways of rewarding yourself that don't require excessive work, excessive resources, or anything too crazy, but still feel satisfying to you. Um, Maybe that's lighting a candle that you only save for those special occasions. Maybe if you really can't afford a candle or anything else, or you just want something really small that's a reward, it could just be, giving yourself that hour to just relax and uncharge and go for a walk or go for a run or go to the pool, or even come up with your own DIY little thing to do. If you're creative enough, there's plenty of rewards out there that aren't harmful to you but can be very refreshing. To give you some examples of my own personal rewards for building habits, there's stuff like just breaks. Like, I'll be working or studying for long periods of time. Sometimes, if things are going really well, like let's say you get I do really well and on a test, that could be just a moment where I could say, you know what, you did well on this test. Let's take the day off, or let's take a 20-minute break, not an hour or not 3 hours, and let's just decharge and have ourselves a nice green tea with honey. Something that's actually pretty tasty, but costs like pennies on the dollar to make. And so there's all sorts of things that you can do if you're inventive. And sometimes it's okay to take those 3-hour breaks or one day or weekend breaks. It's not a small reward for a small victory, it's a big reward, but sometimes it's okay to do that. And for me, I had to learn, like, you have to not be so hard on yourself and give yourself those rewards. And so the big idea here is that when you do that, you feel like you've accomplished something. You build momentum rather than just passing it by and letting yourself forget how important your progression is. Because if you're never rewarding yourself, even if you're progressing, you can really get into a negative frame or perspective where you don't feel like you're growing when you actually are. And even as I'm walking and filming this, I mean, that's another simple yet beautiful reward or moment, if you don't want to use the term reward, moment that I can relish. As of right now, the temperature is great. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, and that doesn't always happen. And I get to spend free time, which is something that a lot of people don't have because they're always working or they're always busy, to just relax and talk to you and take a walk. So, in a nutshell, your reward is up to you. Choose one that makes sense based on your budget, your resources, and of course, the really only hard, fast rules are not to choose something that's too addictive or negative for you in the short and long term, or something that just gets you too off the rails. But as I mentioned, there's tons of things out there. Maybe it's a 20-minute yoga stretch. Maybe it's buying yourself a little treat like a coffee or even a t-shirt. Or maybe it's taking 20 minutes off to stretch or go for a walk, or even 30, 40, maybe the whole night off. But there's plenty of things to do, and you learn from my own experiences. Definitely don't choose something like League of Legends as a reward, because that will get way too addictive, and sooner or later it sucked you into it, and now all your time's dedicated to it, and it can affect your grades. So hopefully it helped. Thanks for asking the question. Like and subscribe.